Hey, Nate, thanks for coming on the show today.
Oh, you bet. Thanks for having me.
You bet. I am excited to have you on. I've been following you for a while on TikTok
Oh,
and
nice.
really excited to hear about what you have going on. I mean, it looks like you've got some really great things with Slickman.
Yeah, we're doing all right. Slickman's doing cool.
Yeah.
hmm
Well, would you say that being on TikTok has been a big part of the success of your welding gloves?
So yeah, Slickman 110% started because of TikTok. And it started off as just me teaching the trade, teaching welding and building a platform. And then it just hit me, hey, there's not a glove like this. So, I made this glove up and I pitched it to my followers and then boom, we had a whole business going. It started in my living room floor and now we got a building and we're all over the country.
That's so exciting. And it didn't take you very long to do all that, did it?
No, the biggest the setback for me the whole time was just money, right? So the way I started it was I was like, look, I'm gonna put $2,000 into this business. $2,000 is gonna float or sink it. Because at the time I'm running my welding business. I have high voltage welding and fabrication. So I didn't want to put any more welding money into it. $2,000 is gonna make or break this. And now I'm not even welding anymore. I'm doing full-time gloving. That's what
That's
I call it. I was
awesome.
like,
Glovin'?
I'm gloving.
You're glovin'?
Yeah.
That's awesome, I love it. Well, I noticed it. I mean, I definitely noticed you and what you were doing, but when I got on TikTok, I
Mhm,
really just discovered the oil field community as a whole. I saw a lot of
mhm,
different apparel, different brands out there, and, with welding, it's so niche focused
mhm.
that it's not just about having good-looking apparel, it needs to be functional.
Right.
So you had some issues with your hands and you
Yeah.
needed a glove that it wasn't a stick glove, but the TIG gloves weren't gonna work?
So yeah, that's what it was I have arthritis in my hands and I don't know if it's I mean, it's called gout. But it was in my hands, right? It was hurting my hands, so I couldn't wear the big heavy stick welding gloves anymore. I don't know why I couldn't. I just knew when I wore them, they hurt my hands, and so I switched to the TIG gloves. But man, they just blow out too fast. So I'm like, man, I need to hit this somewhere in the middle, and that's what we did with our 716 model. We hit it right smack dab in the middle. It's what I like, and that's what I went off was what I liked, what I found comfortable in a glove, and sent it.
Well, and that's gonna make a big difference though, because you're a welder and
Mhm.
these are welding gloves made by welders, so you know what works and what's comfortable and what's gonna last.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely a plus, right? Is I've been doing this for 12 years and I've tried a lot of different things and to be honest, when I did it, I didn't know it was going to end up where I'm at right now. I didn't know it was going to take me away, not necessarily take me away from welding, but get busy enough where I don't have to weld anymore and it's just kind of amazing where it's at. I kind of lost my track.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, it's like you're on another level because you do welding tutorials
Mhm.
in your videos. You're always teaching your
Mhm.
followers different techniques or things to look out for and offering that support. So even though you're not welding in your business, you don't have to because Glovin has been so
Glove.
successful.
It's right, it's cool, and I've always loved teaching. I've had, several job offers at welding academies all over the state or not over the state, all over the country, and, something I just really enjoy doing, and I've noticed since I've been going full time with the gloves, I've been kinda neglecting that part, and I'm like I was thinking about this yesterday because I was shooting a video in my backyard. I was like, "It's crazy, I used to do this for practice to go get a job, now I'm treating this as like my studio, like,
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I definitely don't want to stop teaching. I'm always going to teach no matter, how busy I get with Slickman. I need to separate that time to give back, and I feel like that's what it's all about is when someone messages me and tells me, Nate, that video helped me get past my test. Nate, like, thanks for, you saved my job when I saw this. It's super cool. And that's what it's about is if I can demonstrate something in 60 seconds that took me 10 years to learn, then I'm all for it. You know what I mean? Because then
Mhm.
it helps us all come up at the same time.
It really does, and I love that because, there's so many people that don't wanna share their knowledge,
Mhm.
that they had to learn the hard way, so everyone needs to learn the
And
hard
I've had
way.
those guys reach out to me too, like, "Nate, you're giving away all the secrets." And I'm like, "So? You didn't teach me this secret." Like, a
Right.
lot of these I learned the hard way, and just because I learned the hard way doesn't mean you have to.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because, okay, when I first started welding, there was a man, his name was Ramon Valdez. He showed me gave me my foundation of welding, and he came out the box every single time with every single project and told me exactly how to do it and how I need to do it. That doesn't mean I did it that way, but he was telling me the right way to do it. So ultimately, it's on the end user if they want to do it the way I showed them to or not.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, am I giving away tricks? Definitely,
Yeah,
110%.
but it helps the industry. And like you said, it helps everybody come up. Welding is a strong community, but it's
Mhm.
also pretty small.
Oh, it is tiny.
And so really honing in on preserving the craft of welding
Hmm.
and wanting to encourage people to get better is only going to make the community stronger.
It's yes, very true. And I think it kind of I think it weeds them out too, right?
Yeah.
Like, because if it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
Mhm.
And I know the whole thing that got me through it, because I feel like in welding, I've reached every single stage almost that you can get to. And I think the only thing that kept me going is I didn't want welding to beat me, right? I didn't want it to beat me the whole time because there's times where I reached my breaking point several times, and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna let it win. And I feel like to get to that level, that's the kind of mentality you have to have. And when I go to these schools and I tell these kids that they're looking at wasting or not wasting, but putting $40,000, $30,000 towards 6 months in a school, I tell them, look, if you don't go to sleep thinking about this, if you don't dream about this, if this isn't what you want to do 110%, don't do it
Mhm.
because you're going to waste your time and you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
And I'm really upfront about that part of it too. Like, this isn't just like a magic job that everyone can come and be a part of and we're all going to make a lot of money because it's not.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of fine print.
There's a lot
You
of
know what
fine
I
print
mean?
because you can look at somebody's welding rig, you can watch somebody throw a slick weld on, and you think you can do it too.
Mhm,
It looks so easy, but you guys work really hard for it to
mhm.
look that easy.
Oh yeah, because there's as much as I've made it look easy, I've made it look extremely hard, and that's what people don't see, like, I always say it takes a good 5 years to make a good, well-rounded welder. I'm not talking about making a pipeline welder, I'm not talking about making a plant welder, I'm just talking about a generalized, good all the way around hand, 5 years. I think that's how long it takes, because that's how long it took me. That doesn't mean it's gonna take everyone 5 years, but I know there's a slow way of going about it, and I think generally that those are the people that stay in the trade longer. They're more well-rounded and a better offhand than someone who just rushes into it, tries to make a paycheck, and then burns out.
Yeah. Yeah, because and there's so many moving variables with
Mhm,
it, like whether you have to travel for work or, you're trying to get the money together for your rig or you can pipeline weld but you don't know how to fabricate.
mhm,
And so you hit these dead ends and you've got to break those walls down. You got to figure out how to get over them. And a lot
mhm.
of people don't want to do that. They want that quick paycheck or the status of being a welder,
Right.
but to be really dedicated, you've gotta work on yourself and really gotta work on your lifestyle
Mhm,
because there's so many temptations with it. There's things that happen in the oil field community that can get you off your track of being
mhm,
successful. So, going back to what you're saying, it's that mindset. You gotta go to bed wanting to be better the next day. You're not staying up partying all night and wasting it because you
mhm.
can waste a lot of time where you could be honing in on that craft, then you could be partying for 6 months and lose all of that potential growth.
I could tell in a week if a helper is gonna make it or not, whether they're gonna make it to be a welder or if they're gonna spin off, for lack of a better term. You could tell right off the bat who has it and who doesn't.
Right.
And it kind of sucks because like like you see them, you want them to do better for themselves, but like, hey, buddy, this path you're doing right now is not going to get you there.
Mhm.
You're gonna be one of those, they call them lifelong non-breakout types, like the
Wow,
helpers.
yes, there are career helpers. I have known several that have been helpers for years, and they don't really aspire to get to that next level.
Yeah, and to me, it's like, man, it could be easier. You know what I mean?
But, you know,
Like,
it's scary when
mhm.
you're trying to level up, and
Oh yeah, it's that jump. That jump
yeah,
is terrifying. I
yeah,
feel like in my career, I've made several jumps,
yeah,
right?
you
So,
have.
um, it was, when I went from working for a gas company to rig welding, like doing my own, I say working for a gas company. I started off at Graco, they do downhole tools, and so I did that for, like, 3 years where I learned how to pretty much fabricate, and then when it came time to go from doing that line of work to now I'm running my truck and my equipment and my tools, everyone's always like, "Hey, I don't know if you wanna do that, it's pretty expensive, like, hey, just stay here, or you don't have to cover any overhead,"
Mhm.
and they give you all these reasons why you shouldn't do it,
Right.
and I just did it. I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna do it. It may not be safe, it may not be secure, but, like, there's people out there making a living doing this, and I wanna do that."
Mhm.
So, I made the jump and I did it, boom, and then I got there and I was like, man, it was way scarier thinking about it than actually doing it. And there's always going to be things you need to learn. There's always a learning curve to something, right?
Mhm.
It's never just, what you see is what you get. There's always something that goes along with it. And it was like making that jump from single hand to rig welder and then jumping from a rig welder to company owner. That's another jump, because then it's like, I'm not depending on somebody to go and find me a job now, I'm gonna go look for the jobs, right? And I have to learn how to bid them. I have to learn how to market, I have to learn how to talk to people, I have to learn how to there's a lot of things that go in
Mhm.
with that
Yeah,
aspect of it, like, it's not
it's
just
totally different.
yeah, it's not just showing up to work anymore, now
Right.
it's like you have to make the work happen,
Yeah.
and, and then jumping into Slickman, that was another big jump because that was like completely changing industries. I went from manufacturing to now like a retail type like a industry that I had
Yeah.
no clue about, which was nice when I started Slickman because when I started Slickman, I had high voltage going at the same time. And like I said, I started Slickman with $2,000 and I was able to still go to work for high voltage work. I was running both companies at the same time and allowing one to grow really organically, right? So what we were talking about earlier, that was my slowdown was money. But I don't know if it was really a slowdown because Slickman could have popped off the chop like right at the get go, and I probably would have messed it all up.
Mhm.
Because within 3 months of me doing my thing, I had a gentleman reach out and say, Nate, I 110% want to give you this amount of money. It was like $200,000. And I said, buddy, I don't know what to do with $200,000. And so I was like, you know what, keep your money. I kind of like the slow growth.
Yeah.
And so I was able to handle my welding company and handle Slickman growing really slow because when we made our first batch of gloves, I think it was like, I don't know, 200 pairs of gloves, 250 pairs of gloves, gone in like 3 days, out. Boom.
Wow.
And I was like, wow.
That is huge. And
Yeah.
with slow growth that
And that was,
happened.
yeah. And it was just like, cause like, I had my core following, they're all around the country and I really support, I mean, I really thank everybody that supports, me and the Slickman journey. Like without that, I'd be nothing, right? And, yeah, we did it. I got us like 2 or 3 boxes of gloves, and I looked at them, and 1, they're not what I wanted, like, because
Oh,
that's another thing is, like, when you're dealing with manufacturing, sometimes it's not always it's like what I got as a sample is not what I got in bulk, and
wow.
so I'm like, "Man, this is rough." Like, the coloring was off, the stitching was off, I was like, "This is not what I wanted," and I'm like, "You know what? I'm just gonna let the people tell me what they think, right?"
Oh, that's a good
So
idea.
so, I fished out all the really bad pairs and then and then I was like, "All right, guys, they're here." And then 3 days later, boom, they're all gone. I'm like, "Holy smokes." I'm over here thinking, "What am I gonna do if none of these gloves sells? I'm gonna have gloves for the rest of my life." And then they were gone and it was a series of we did that, pretty much for the whole first year, and I'm still doing it. Like I just that was 200 pairs of gloves. I got in 1,000 pair of gloves last week, and they were gone in 7 days. And it's still happening now that like I'm still that's still limiting me is the amount of money I have to put forward to getting things into production, right? So, but at the same time, now I feel like I'm able to do what I need to do with a set amount of money. Now I can go back and say, hey, if I had $200,000,
You would know what to
I would know
do.
what to do with it
Yeah.
now, and I'm appreciative for that slow growth because without it, because there's been times where I ordered $4,000 worth of gloves, and all of them are shot. Like,
Mm,
it's not what I wanted. This is not what I wanna sell to somebody, and, like I said, there could be nothing wrong with it, it's just not what I wanted,
mhm.
and, I feel like with Slickman, we hold a standard. I hold a standard of what I want my name on. So, there's, like, I'd much rather experience that at the $4,000 level than the $40,000 level, you
Absolutely,
know?
because
So
that could be detrimental
oh,
at
easily.
the $40,000 level.
Easily,
I mean,
yeah.
$4,000 would be a blow.
So, definitely, it
Yeah,
was. It
yeah,
was a blow, and we had
yeah,
to we had to take it on the chin,
yeah.
and yeah, so that's what I'm getting at with that, which with the gloves, we ended up giving them away to schools.
Oh, yeah, that's
I
good.
gave away the gloves to schools. I did, I gave back to my customers. I was like, "You know what? These gloves are super bunk, but if you buy a pair of these other gloves, I'll send you these gloves for free
Yeah,
in the
that's a
same
backup
size."
pair,
And, like, yeah, and, I'm always like, I always wanna give back to the people that are supporting me,
Yeah,
right? So,
yeah.
yeah, and we gave some gloves off to when them fires were going off in Amarillo and just things like that. I always find something good to put them
That's
towards.
so awesome and very creative, like, thinking outside the box there. So
Mhm,
they're purposeful,
mhm.
and but then, like, in situations like that, like with the fires in Amarillo or welding schools, like, you can tell, like, your heart's in the right place, and that must be a really great feeling to be able to do that.
See, because I haven't always been just a good person, right? Like, I went to school and I was kind of rude. And, I was a pipeline, like, I say pipeline welder. I was just a West Texas rig welder, which they have a stigma, and I'm
Absolutely.
gonna say I 110% fit that stigma for about 3 years. And, I've noticed, with my change in energy, everything around me changes. So, like, if I can produce more positive, even if I'm getting negative, even if I'm getting, if I can keep my zone and the people I have around me positive, so much more positive things happen.
Mhm.
It's wild that like used to, I would think like so negative about something, and now it's I don't even like how would you say it? I don't have the time of day for the negativity,
Right.
so
Well, you've
because I want to keep
outgrown
that
that.
positive
You
space.
want this positivity,
Yeah.
and I do understand the stigma of the West Texas rig welder. It's almost like an identity to embody.
Hmm.
It's like it's already there, and when you get the rig and you're working on location, like it's
And I
just
mean, I understand where it comes from, man, because to get to that level, it takes
it takes a
grit
lot.
and tenacity.
Yeah.
And when you get there, it's like, I'm here and I'm doing it.
Yeah, and you're the
You know what I
badass
mean?
now.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like, I'm the captain because
Yeah, you
there
fire up,
you
you're a
are. You know what I
machine.
mean?
Yeah,
And so it's hard to not let your head blow up.
for sure.
And
But
that's something that like, because my head blew up.
mm.
It did. But, luckily I got a wife that popped it.
Yeah, and
You know what
she
I mean?
helped you, kinda see the light, and it sounds like from what you were telling me before, she's had a huge impact
Oh,
on
a
your
huge hand.
success and
Yeah.
you, like, really kinda being true to yourself and
Mhm.
what you can do and helping you reach your potential.
Oh, 110%. Without her, Ovally, my sweetheart, she's gonna hate that. Um, Without her, none of this would have been possible. I'd probably be in a ditch somewhere.
Right.
Like, they say, behind every great man, there's a strong woman, and that's 110% true. 'Cause she's super strong, and she had this vision. I don't know where it's come from. She's always been real clairvoyant with things, and I didn't see it at the time, and I'm glad she did because I mean, look where we're at.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, you guys, strong in your marriage, were able to create this business that is now a
Mhm,
successful partnership.
mhm.
And that is rare because, I mean, with welding, it can make or break a marriage, first of all,
Easy.
because of the lifestyle, the travel, the disconnect. I mean, I've known a lot of successful welding couples that work together,
Mhm.
the welder and the
That's
helper.
hard too.
That would be hard. But that's the way it works.
Mhm.
Everybody's different. Others could not work with their spouse, nor would they want to. But, you have to find your way back to each other.
Yeah.
Or, how can you move forward together stronger? And like you're telling me, like, your son gets to show your videos to his
Oh, yeah, that's
classmates. And
wild.
isn't that
Mhm. That
awesome?
is pretty neat.
That is so cool. And because you guys did this together, you're seeing the repercussions of all that positivity in so many
Mhm.
ways, but within your own family.
Oh, yeah, it's changed big time, like, the whole dynamic of how my house just feels in general is, like, zen.
Oh, I love
It's
that.
zen. It's
Yeah.
like it's a beautiful thing, and I wouldn't change it for anything.
Well, and I think it's awesome because you've been successful with your gloves now and the business, but you still want to help people learn skills. You still want to help
Definitely.
the kids. You still want to be involved. And I think that's part of what sets you apart. You're not just promoting a brand or, hey, you found a great product you can make money off of. You
Mhm.
can live a comfortable lifestyle, but you're also continuing to help other people come up and get better, and
And
I think
see,
people are drawn to that.
y yeah, I think you're right, and, like, the thing about it is I always, because now we're getting to the point to where, I am doing Slickman full time, and that is super cool. But most of the time when I'm sitting here and I'm just like packaging gloves or I'm looking at gloves or because we still me and my wife do the majority of that. Um, I just think I have a plethora of knowledge sitting on my head that's not doing nothing.
Mm,
And like beforehand, like I've noticed in my content creation that it hit a slowdown because I'm not doing what I do. Right? I'm not building something. I'm not pipe welding every day. I'm not, pulling measurements. And I think that it kind of throws me out of my zone when it comes to like content creation. So now I'm like trying to get back to what do I need to do to get back to that?
mhm.
You know what I mean?
Well, the
Just-
journey is just ongoing. There's so much, like you said, to go from single hand to rig welding to owning your own business and now getting into having your own product.
Mhm.
Now it's you are driven to always be achieving. And so it's kind of being able to take it all, and you're on this level now where you're financially flush and your product's doing good, your following is good, you're enjoying it all. So then it's what's next and how can you be better? How can you
Right.
dial it in even more?
Right. That's like because I'm always never satisfied. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
I am always looking for that next accomplishment, And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it was growing up poor or what, but there's just something in me that doesn't want to stop. And like, I hope I can instill that into somebody else.
I think, and you had mentioned that before, that you grew up, you weren't able to do a lot of things because there wasn't money.
Right.
And so you knew that you were going to do something where you were going to make money, and you saw
Mhm.
that first rig welder and you knew.
Oh yeah.
You saw that, and even though there were, mountain ranges that you would have to cross to get to that point,
Hmm.
to learn that skill, to really be able to master it. I mean, just to learn it and then to master it's a whole
Hmm.
different, journey, but when you realize that you can do all of that, I think it makes you wanna show other people what they can do because it's
Hmm.
like, "Look, you're still evolving because you're not very old to have reached this level
Oh,
already."
it's insane. Okay, so the first time I actually like, and this may sound whatever, but when I noticed I was that guy, I was 23 years old. I think I just turned 23. I was 22, turning 23. And we were working for Kinder Morgan, and it was a Kinder Morgan and ETC. They were like, I don't know, it's like their same project. They both
Oh,
their
yeah.
names were on this
Mhm.
project. So they had this huge, massive 30-inch header that was built out of the wrong pipe.
No.
And yeah, like the whole thing was huge.
Oh, scary.
And they were like, yeah, this ain't gonna work. So they shut it down and they went and cut it out. And they brought in like I say like a dream team of contractors, I guess, out there. And so everyone's like, "Hey, this is what happened. This is what we're gonna do." And I'm just one of the contractors there, not high voltage. I was with somebody else. I was with I think they're Epic Energy Services, and I was just one of the welders for them. And we all met up. There's like 20 of us. Like, all right, you weld this fitting on a pipe. You do this or whatever. And so we're just doing that for like the first day, first 2 days, because it's a 24-hour process now.
Yeah.
Because every day that this thing isn't on,
Yeah.
Kinder Morgan's losing so much money or whatever.
Mhm.
That's things that usually welders don't care about, by the way. But anyways, so everyone's working around the clock to get this thing done. Now there's massive pieces, huge pieces. We're talking about a 30-inch flange is almost as tall as I am,
Mhm.
right? So it's time to start putting all these things together. And I'm just, I'm standing back because I'm the young guy.
Mhm.
And there's a bunch of older welders around, and they're just putting all this stuff together or trying to. And we're pitter pattering with it for like 3 hours trying to get a fit up. And I'm like, all right, this is not working. Then I said, my buddy AJ was my helper at the time. I said, AJ, go grab me my laser, my 4 foot level, and a string, and we're gonna get this thing fit up and go home because like that's all we were waiting for is get this thing fit up, and welders can start working on it, then I can go home. And so that's what we did. We went and we tackled it, and in like I say 15 to 20 minutes, it was done deal. There was the clamps were off. They were putting a bead in the pipe,
Oh, nice.
and I was like, all right, cool, put my stuff up. And then so AJ starts putting my stuff up. And then Michael Rimpley, he was like he was Kinder Morgan's chief inspector on that job. And he came up to me and he was like, "You're not going anywhere. You're spearheading this thing. I need you here." And I was like,
Wow.
"I'm just a kid.
Right?
I'm just a kid." And that was a really cool experience. That was way before social media. That was way before I just me when I was
You were
welding.
just
I was
welding.
just doing my thing,
You
you
were
know what I
doing your
mean?
thing. Well, and, like, I can picture all of that because I've been on locations. I've definitely been on locations where things weren't fitting up right, and, I
Mhm.
mean, everybody starts coming out, and they're trying to figure it out, and there's all that pressure because even though it doesn't affect us, we're not losing all that money.
Right.
There is a lot.
I wanna go home.
You wanna go home,
Yeah.
it's like we all just wanna go home, and the gas company's freaking out because they're losing all this money by the second,
Mhm.
but you were respectful, you let the older welders do their thing,
Yeah, yeah.
they're and, of course, you're not just trying to jump in there, you literally just wanted to go home, you gave them plenty ample time,
Ample time.
it was not happening,
No.
and so but they saw that, like, you were able to go out there, it's very simple, that the tools that you gathered
Mhm.
to figure it out, you're just like, "This is it." I could see where they would have wanted you to stay, because at that point, you had proved yourself, but you weren't trying to prove
I
yourself.
wasn't trying to, I was just trying to just do my job and get out of there.
Yeah.
And see what's crazy? Um, it's wild about the way I was taught how to fabricate. I always say, if I see far, it's because I've stood on the shoulders of giants.
Oh, wow.
So I've had some really great teachers. At no point in my life had I ever fabricated pipe that big ever.
Mm.
Never,
Yeah,
never
'cause
done
that
it a day in my life.
yeah.
Everything was always 12-inch,
Right.
16-inch. It's all small stuff.
Mhm.
It's different when you're working with 24, 30, 36. It's way different.
Oh, yeah.
And that was also pretty neat. That was the first time I ever did that, and it worked out.
Well, and for you to have that experience early on,
Hmm.
I think that that plants a seed in your mind. If you can do that, there are so many other smaller battles that you can take on
Hmm.
because you've achieved that. That wasn't even something that you were aiming for. You just
Oh, I felt like no one could knock me down for like 2 months. I was like, man. And then the company I was working for at the time, um, I was kind of their go-to guy. Like I built a whole meter station in the jacks. I built a
Wow.
whole meter station in the jacks,
Okay.
went in and made 3 welds, tied it in.
That's
Done.
awesome.
And I've I haven't seen anybody do that since then, but also I haven't been doing it since then. But yeah, I built the
Right.
whole thing in the jacks, and it got to where every like little because they had other crews, welding crews working at different meter
Mhm.
stations and stuff. But when it got time to figure something out, then I had to pull off of what I was doing to go figure something out, and then go back to doing what I was
Oh,
doing.
yeah. No, because, the experiences I've had, I've worked with some slick welders, and
Mhm.
I've seen some cool fit ups and things like that, but I have definitely seen you build it in the jacks, you go to tie it in, it's definitely gonna get cut up a couple of times.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for sure.
Mhm.
And, I mean, it's better if it's too long then because then you can just make a cut, but I mean, not everybody's on the same page, and so it doesn't translate. It doesn't translate from the
Mhm.
ISO to the jacks to the tie-in. That's a lot of time and energy and money wasted.
Yeah, and I think it's cool that I was able to do that. And there's been several instances where I can like, fabricate something long before something was ever there. And but I think that's also why I lost a lot of hair. It's like just going to bed stressing about it, like, man, is that gonna fit? I would like wake up in the middle of the night. I missed it by a half inch. Like,
I
oh.
believe that for sure, for sure. Well, we measure twice, cut once
Mhm,
for a reason, but there is always that like, did you include the takeoff?
mhm.
Or, like, was anything off? Or, yeah, I mean, you could miss a quarter of an inch and
And see, and that's something that I like also with Slickman is I don't want to lose that. I don't wanna lose where I came from, and I don't want people to think that we're just like everyone else, because 'cause we're not.
Mhm,
Like, I want them to know that I've been in your spot. I've done that, and this is where I come from, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not, a white collar businessman that's never put his hands on something.
mhm.
I've been there and I've done it, and this is where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So I understand you and your needs and your wants and what it's like to buy something that sucks.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because I'm not always gonna have the best product either, but I'm gonna make sure that I make it right with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you have the perspective of you're from West Texas, you're
Mhm,
from Monahans, and so you've been in this region. A lot of people come from different parts of the country to work out here,
mhm,
so you have a different take on things anyway. And I mean, you do hold yourself to a high standard, and you've lived up to that standard, and so you continue showing up for it, whether it's with your welding or with your product or with your
mhm,
relationships. And then, like you said, giving back to the community, even being able to think so far outside of yourself of how you can positively impact other people. I think
mhm.
that that's rare, but it's so refreshing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's cool hearing you
absolutely.
sum that up.
Yeah, and I mean that's my take from
Mhm,
watching you on TikTok because when I got on TikTok with my podcast, I knew I was going to put my clips on there. And I knew that I would see oil field uh, videos,
mhm,
welding and drilling and all the things. And I loved it. It made me nostalgic for when I was in the field. I miss it a lot,
mhm,
but it's like when you move on to something else, you can carry that with you, but it's never going to be what you were doing. Like
mhm,
when you leave the field, you have that disconnect. And so to be able to reconnect and I was watching these guys weld and I started seeing some of the products show up and somehow I found you and I started following your videos and I
mhm,
really enjoyed them. And then I saw you had your gloves and, always came back to authenticity. You did one video about safety. Like,
mhm.
make sure you keep yourself safe first
Yeah,
because you can't rely on somebody else um, to know what is safe and what isn't, like doing a hot tap.
yeah.
If somebody's not willing to come and stand next to you while you're doing it, something's wrong.
Oh, yeah, and, I think you're talking about the video, Almost Lost My Hands, cutting
With the
off a wheel
chain.
head. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of that, and I feel like that I know we always talk about it in, your pre-work safety meetings, everyone needs to be safe or whatever, but when it comes nut cutting time, it's like, "Alright, dude, we need
Yeah,
you to do this,
forget about that.
or we're gonna find somebody that can."
Mhm,
And I'll tell them 9 times out of 10, "Find somebody else that could do it."
mhm,
Like, I don't there was a time where I was a hungry welder, and, like, I needed the money, and I
mhm.
needed to do it, and that's how it was, that's what I did, so I did it, but, like, after seeing, being in the oil field as long as and, which, I've only been doing it for, 12 years. I've seen enough to understand what is safe and what is not and
Mhm.
where I need to put myself at, and I just want the people you know, that haven't experienced that yet to really just second guess something, just take your time, and if you don't know, call somebody that knows, because networking is like, it's a big deal. And 9 times out of 10, you know somebody. If you're in this welding niche, you know somebody that's done the job you're about to do.
Mhm.
So call them.
And they would be glad to take the call and walk you through
Mhm.
it or tell you their experience with it.
If I would have took 2 minutes to make a phone call, my helper wouldn't have broke his arm, and we would have completely saved the company money. We would have saved our health, and like that is a staple in my mind of just safety. Is
Mhm.
like I came this close. We flew that close to the sun, and I'm just glad I got my hands.
Right.
You know.
Right, I mean, grateful for it, but yeah, that's a lesson that'll stay with you for life.
Hmm.
But you are absolutely right because you go on these jobs, you get on location, and you think the people that are in charge all know what they're doing.
Right.
They should. And a lot of them
Theory.
in theory, everyone should know what's safe, what isn't, how the process works, but,
Hmm.
a lot of people the disconnect between the field and the office is people in the office are making promises that it's gonna get done, and
Hmm.
we'll have it tied in by tomorrow, and, whatever they're saying to keep the powers that be happy.
Happy.
And not knowing, like, okay, with welding, there's fire, there can be a gas leak.
Hmm.
Right there, you need to know if there's any foreign lines around. What kind of situation could happen here.
Hmm.
You need to be able to look ahead. Don't just look ahead at the deadline you're trying to meet. Look ahead at the repercussions of what could happen.
Because after an accident happens, then there's all the time for safety,
Oh,
right?
there's plenty
There's
of time
plenty of
for
time
that.
after that.
There's many
Yeah.
meetings, there's JSAs and paperwork and more meetings and training, and it's a lot of unnecessary.
It's wild because we are in the year 2024. I just did a job. I'm not going to mention the name of the company because it's a pretty big company, and I went to go do some maintenance for them. And it got time to blow down some lines, and I'm like, "All right,
Mm,
where's the high point?" And they're
mhm.
like, "What's that?"
Oh
I was like,
gosh.
"This is a
Oh, no.
natural gas feeding. Like, you got natural gas all over the place, and there's no high point to blow this thing down." They're
Wow.
like, "Well, we can take that flange apart." I was like, "And then what? What if all that gas hit somebody in the face? Like, who built this? Like, who approved this? You know what
Mhm,
I mean?" And I feel like that, and like that's how I'm gonna say ignorance.
mhm.
I think, and that's a big company. It's huge,
Yeah,
huge. Like, and we're still dealing with it. So like
yeah.
that's why, safety is like not something I talk about all the time, but like when I do talk about it, I'm real serious about it.
Very serious because you've experienced that,
Mhm.
and I think that you can tell people who have had real world experience. It's like on a pipeline with a tie-in. Those ditches can cave in, and they have
Mhm.
before, and they have killed people, and that's why it's a really big deal to make sure that you have your egress, that the ditch is wide enough, that
Mhm.
everyone that doesn't need to be in the ditch isn't down there,
Yeah.
because if anything goes wrong, you wanna be able to get your people out, and usually with a tie-in, that's something that we're trying to hurry up and get done.
Yeah.
But I think there's been so much loss of life that that's why you see the thoroughness of these tie-in bell holes now.
Yeah.
Because before it was, I mean, in the ignorance of the oil field 60 years ago, like we weren't there with a lot of the innovation and the
Mhm.
understanding of it all. Like you're just trying to dig the trench and put the pipe in the ground. But those things make all the difference. If you can't get in and out of that bell hole safely, you are already at
Oh
risk
yeah,
before you do anything.
there's been times we're working out in the sand, and I understand that they can't, make you the steps, so they make you a slide.
The
And
sand, the
I've seen old
slide.
welders go down there, and I'm like,
How's he getting back out?
yeah, so, like, we're up there on the top of the ditch, we got our leads, and he's pulling on the leads trying to climb back
Yep,
out,
yep,
and
yep.
things like that, and not just, the ditch itself, but the people you got operating around the ditch. Alright, this is another story, and I haven't told this one in a hot minute. Me and this old welder were making a tie-in, and it was a nice ditch, super nice ditch, but there was, like, I don't know, half a mile of exposed pipe, and I don't know if it was this tie-in foreman had something to prove or what, but all we had in the pipe was a bead. That's all we had, we grinded it out, and we're putting our hot pass in. And as soon as we start on this hot pass, he starts lowering the pipe. So there's half a mile of pipe. I say half a mile. I don't know, maybe 500 yards, 600 yards of pipe being lowered in the ditch, and I'm welding. So like I'm just I got my little box. This is
Mhm.
my whole world right
Yep.
here,
Yep.
and I'm welding, and I see the pipe start to come apart.
Oh my
I'm like,
gosh.
"What the," and it was like, it split a little bit at the top, and then the whole thing just boom, and I was like, "What the hell just happened?" And then I looked up, and the tie foreman, he looked at me, I looked at him, and I looked back, and I said, "Yeah, it's a pretty tense situation right there in that
Yeah.
moment," and,
Yeah.
like, I was young when that
Mhm.
happened, and I didn't really understand the gravity of what just happened. I
Mhm.
was like, "Man, I'm just glad I didn't get hurt,"
Right.
but, like, I think I'd be having a different conversation today if that
Oh, you
happened, you know
absolutely
what I mean?
would, and but that's so ignorant because you don't move the pipe unless you have a bead in the hot pass in,
At
at
least,
least,
at least.
and I'm sure there was no real reason for that to be
No,
happening.
he's just trying to get
He
it
was
done.
just trying
He's
to
trying to show
yeah,
off.
like, oh yeah, he's trying to show off, but again, he doesn't understand the process of welding, like, you don't leave the pipe like, if you tie it in, you tack it, okay, but you do not leave the pipe overnight without a bead and a hot pass.
Mhm,
But unless there's an actual reason to be getting out of there, like, you're gonna weld it out,
mhm.
or you're at least gonna fill. And so for him to do that, he's trying to prove something. He doesn't know a damn thing about welding, and he could have gotten somebody killed
Easily.
very easily. Because when that pipe jumps and
That was a
it's
long
between
pipe.
you and the wall, like, a lot of those bell holes, they're not very wide a lot of times, and so you don't have a lot of room if that pipe swings, and as heavy as it is and all that
Oh, it
tension
didn't take
breaking.
nothing. A human body versus a steel pipe,
Right.
pipe every time.
Yeah, pipe every time for sure. And so
Mhm,
you get those lessons, you learn along the way. It's really good that you educate, especially the younger generation,
mhm,
because they don't have to go through those things. You shouldn't have had to go through those things, but for us to realize that, as workers, as a helper, as a welder, as anybody that's on location, you can't just take somebody's title and position at face value because they may not understand and they may just miss something. It could be
mhm,
ignorance because they've never actually done the work, or it could just be something that got missed. They could be jam up and just not realizing the situation.
mhm,
But I think that people like you that have actually done the work and have been there and you're advocating for, it is be your brother's keeper, but also like watch your own back. Make
mhm.
sure that you're doing what you know is safe. And if you don't know, like you said, just make a phone call.
Just make a phone call. Somebody knows. Somebody knows how to do it,
Yeah.
you know?
And that's something that would start getting everybody stirred up
Mhm.
because any welder that hears your story about that pipe coming apart could relate.
And that's why okay, I know there's a lot of young helpers, a lot of young people that want to hurry up and break out. They want to hurry up and break out. And I get it. Um, but what's nice about not doing that and working for somebody, I worked for Wayne Johnson in Montes. He had Wayne's Welding for a very long time. Super, super good welder, super savvy. He's been doing it for a long time. There isn't nothing that Wayne hasn't done in this area. And it's nice being able to tap into that whenever I had a question on something, if I had something like if something was puzzling me, I'd be like, "Hey, Wayne, check this out," and he'd be like, "All right," he'd explain it in a way that I can understand, and so it's again, this is that slow growth, right? The taking it easy and just going about it that way. Like there
There's no
shouldn't be a rush
substitute
for
for
it.
experience.
Mm,
And so with welding, you need experience.
mhm.
You need good welds, you need bad welds, you need to be in different environments more than once.
Yeah.
Because there's always like the weather. I mean, there's so many things that can impact
Mhm.
you. And to know what to do, your machine breaks down.
Mhm.
You need to know how to fix it. You need to be able to improvise. Otherwise, you're going
And
to struggle.
that's where the value comes from. That's what makes a welder expensive. That's what makes you, you know, it's your value. It's not necessarily your time because I got to a point to where people would wait for me to come. Like, no, we don't want anybody else. We want you to come here because we know we're gonna get it right the first time.
That's awesome.
And I thought this was crazy. The first time I experienced that, I was like 24, 25, and there's a whole pulling unit that waited 3 days for me to get out there to go
Wow,
do whatever I had to do.
that's
I think I
awesome.
just had to weld a bell nipple on. It wasn't like, nothing too, but people, they have bad run-ins with welders.
Mhm.
There's a lot of bad ones. As
Yeah,
many good ones as there is, there's 1,000 more bad ones,
yeah.
and like that's where the value comes in. Is just is having all that experience.
Oh, for sure. Well, and there are some really great welders with not so great personalities,
Mhm.
and they don't want that can like just totally eliminate a welder.
Oh
If
yeah.
they get tired of them or they have a bad experience, it doesn't matter how fast you are. If you've got
Mhm.
a bad attitude, if you're complaining, if you're bringing the morale down of the whole crew or the whole operation, that's a thing.
It
That
is a thing.
that's a huge thing because I mean
I've
they're instant.
experienced both sides of that.
Yeah, yeah, and I believe that because, like, when you're young or when, you're first breaking out, you get cocky and, then you have this whole persona
I'm
to
telling you, I was 20 years old making $50 an hour.
oh, man, I
20 years
bet you
old.
were a little bit
Oh,
full of
I was a
yourself.
pistol. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but, you make that money and you're doing good, you're not, you're sought after, you're getting work, all of those things, like, why would you not get a little,
Yeah, it
full of
makes you
yourself? Yeah.
it does it to you. I feel like, part of it was just my personality, a part of it was, like, everything that comes with it, right? And, I think that's what's cool about growing up is understanding that you don't have to be that way. You don't
Right.
have to be an asshole. Like, you could be cool.
You can be
You
cool.
can you can put out good vibes, and,
Yes, you
and it's
can.
it's it's beautiful, and you know what? Even today, I got people that hate my guts because of I don't know. I couldn't tell you why, but I just rubbed them wrong some way or another, and that's fine.
Right,
But, like, that doesn't mean I gotta be ugly back, you
right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's it's still something I'm working on all the time is, like, 'cause there's situations I get put in or Slickman's in, and I'm just like, it's hard not to get emotional about it.
Mhm.
But, like, just calming down and thinking, "All right, that got a little rowdy. Good
Just take a
energy."
moment.
Yeah,
Yeah, take a breath, take that beat
yeah.
and
Cause
reset.
like, recently, somebody called me, like, weak, and
Oh.
I was like
Oh, no.
I wanted to blow up,
Oh, yeah. I'm sure.
I was like, "What do you mean I'm weak?" And then, a few days later, I was like, "You know what? That attitude I was showing was weak." And
Oh.
like, he was right in that moment. At the time, I may have hated his guts. And like, no, I'm not weak. But like looking back after the fact and being able to like self-reflect and think,
Mhm.
you know what? Losing your your what is it called? Losing your I say it's not self-control, losing
You're
your
cool.
losing your cool
Mm.
is a sign of weakness.
Mm.
Right? So, like, he was right.
Yeah.
He was right. I was being weak in that moment, and, like, just being able to understand that, and now I can grow from it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, because you can use that now as fuel.
Mhm,
Like, okay, yeah, you reacted or okay, maybe there was something to that, but that's the thing about when people are throwing things at you or criticism or,
mhm,
something and maybe they're just being shitty, but you can use that
mhm.
and grow from it.
I think it's kinda weird, right? Like, I get told so many positive things all the time, but it's the negative things that stick with
It
you,
really
you know what
does.
I mean?
Yeah.
And I kinda hate that it's like that, but
It's I think that's we talked about it before, the human experience. As
Mhm,
much as you can put out all these positive vibes and radiate across the country and, help educate people about welding, there are things that people can say to you. And when they're negative, for some reason, that can overshadow all that good
yeah.
that you're doing.
Oh, yeah, it
It's
does
one
real quick.
individual. You have thousands that are thinking it's great, and you get this one hater and this one person, and whether what they're saying is valid or not, there's just something about the human mind that will absorb that like a sponge,
Mhm.
like it's some kind of gospel.
Yeah. It's wild, I don't know if Will Smith said it, somebody said it, or if it was Dave Chappelle, I can't remember, but everyone loves it when a hero falls. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
People live for that. Like,
Mhm.
as soon as, like, you hear something bad about, like, "What happened?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?"
Mhm.
So
Yeah, no, you were right about that. You want that. There are people in this world that savor the downfall of a
oh, yeah.
hero.
And I know people are watching me hoping I fall
Oh,
on
I
my
hear
face.
you on that.
I know there is.
Yeah.
And, you know what? Maybe one day I will. I probably will fall on my face. I've done it before,
Well, the thing is,
but
it's like failure is a part of
it
success.
is.
Now, I mean, if you just absolutely bottomed out, Slickman went out the window, you stopped, having the ability to weld, you canceled TikTok, like, okay, maybe like what happened to Nate? But I could see like maybe you fumble or,
Mhm,
something like you try something, it doesn't work out, but that is a part of the process of success. But people who are not doing anything or are not happy or they're too afraid to put themselves out there, they're quick to criticize
oh,
or
yeah.
they're quick to follow your flaws. Like they want to see a typo in your post. They want to
Mhm.
see where you mess something up. They want to call it out. Like that's not how you do that. Or I mean, you might have corrected yourself on something. They're still gonna have to point
Oh,
it
yeah.
out. And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
it's just a but I think that there's too much of that, especially in social media. Trolls are a thing. Haters have always been a
And you
thing.
know what's crazy is, like, I do have haters, a lot of silent haters, but, like, the welding community in general online is typically toxic. Like, when someone posts something about doing it, you know, what you're talking about, what just happened in that. And, like, with my community, it was like a safe space. It was like, if somebody got on there and said, "Nate, you suck," well, then there's like 10 people jumping
Oh,
on them,
yeah, I
like
believe that.
like, you
Yeah.
know, so
Yeah, a
that
safe
was
space.
different. It was weird. It's like I was expecting more criticism than praise for what I was doing half the time, but it
Mhm.
was always the opposite way around.
You're right because there is a lot of toxicity in the welding community. Like, what are you doing? Posting pictures of your work, or the cap looks good. What about the root? Like, it doesn't. I mean, they're just looking for something negative
Mhm.
to say, and I mean, they're welders are doing it to each other.
Oh, yeah,
You
it's
know,
like, that's the worst.
but welders together are the worst because you guys can go from buddies to enemies in the same conversation. Like,
It's terrible.
it is because you can be, like, talking to a group of people and you're gonna back each other up about how you guys are badass welders, but if it's just you 2, well, one of you's the better welder, and
Mhm,
then suddenly there's a mental challenge going on about how fast you can weld or what else you can do, or you're better with a cutting torch. I've definitely heard several of these arguments
mhm.
over the years, and so there's a toxic undertone
Oh,
in
yeah.
welding. It's not just the asshole
I could think of a
welders.
group of guys
Oh, I can think of a
easily.
roster
Mm.
that's going through my mind, and I'm like, you guys are going along in a conversation, and it's fine, and then we take a left turn, and we're not coming back.
It's true, and I hate that it's like that, you know, because I don't like being, you know, any which way with anybody. I like to, you know,
Just be
level. I
cool.
just like to be cool,
Yeah.
and some people just aren't like that.
And I think, some of it is people are battling really deep inner demons as
Mhm,
far as maybe they're not happy at home or financial problems or they're frustrated with work because as much as welding is a skill and something you enjoy, it's still hard work.
mhm,
And to be standing over a hot, smoky weld all day and not being appreciated or dealing with the elements, like I think there's a lot of things that people don't process
mhm.
and then that can just it festers and then there's a reason to be aggressive.
Yeah,
And so there's this reactive.
and I always tell welders, especially welders, like, "Look, I'm not the slickest welder. I'm not. Not by a long shot. I'm just good about talking. Like, I could talk about it, you know, I could show you how to do it."
Mhm.
That's what, like, you know, because people that see me doing this and be, "Oh, I worked with Nate. He's not that slick.
Mm.
I've done this with Nate. That's not that. He's not that. He's not all that." Most of the time, I can't see who they were because 'cause they're, like, behind somebody or behind, like, a fake
Oh,
profile.
yeah, user
Uh, and
970,000,000.
mhm,
Mhm.
and I'm like, "You know what, dude? You're right. I'm not. I'm not the best welder. I just did a video yesterday TIG welding. Am I a TIG welder? No. But I know enough. I know
Yeah.
enough to show somebody something,
Yeah.
and, that's what it's about, you know? Like, I'll never claim to be the slickest person out there.
Well, and you don't have to
Mhm,
because, I mean, 1, you don't have anything to prove, and 2, it's not about always being the slickest. It's just about being authentic and good at what
mhm,
you do and having pride in what you do. You wanna show it off, you wanna share, you wanna teach and educate people that are trying to bring you down, like, they're just falling in the shadows because your light shines too bright for it to matter.
thank you. That's awesome.
But, and I think that a lot about TikTok, and it's like whenever I see you pop up because you do just blast off with your videos, it's awesome the way you come
Mhm,
on, but the community that we have on TikTok, it's very powerful in being
mhm,
able to control the narrative, to reach the masses, and the success that a lot of people have had on TikTok with, the audience, the following, with the TikTok shops. But now it seems like, there could potentially be a ban,
Right.
and everything that's going on with that could be detrimental.
Very detrimental, and, like, I'm lucky that we kinda got ahead of the curve to where I kinda planted roots in, because 'cause we're in welding supplies all over, Texas and Oklahoma, and I got a list, from Arkansas to California of people that want our gloves. So that's cool that we kind of got ahead of the curve a little bit on that. But TikTok is the whole reason I'm here. TikTok is what started this whole thing. And I know it's not just for me, but a lot of business owners, a lot of people, they were able to pull themselves out of the dirt and become somebody because of this app, supposedly controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. There's a lot of things, and I don't really like to get real political because I think politics are super nasty. Um, but if you were to ask me, Nate, do you trust your government? I'll tell you, no, I do not.
Right.
There's nothing about it that I trust, and I think a lot of people my age feel this way. I think, this dirty stunt that Congress proved or just did, putting the TikTok ban in with, funding these never ending wars. Uh, I think that was shisty. I think it was dirty. I don't think it has anything to do with the Chinese Communist Party.
Because you
I
said,
don't.
I saw that video that you did. I watched your video yesterday about how TikTok is very safe with your data.
They are. They're 100% safer than anybody. And I was watching this deal. TikTok saves its data in Texas with the United States Data Security. It's USDS is what they call themselves. They're here, and they just spent $2 million on protecting mine and your data. And not only is it based here in Texas, there's a third party company called Oracle, a United States company that audits everything that they do. So you're going to sit here and tell me that they're worried about our data being sold to China when China already has its hands in our food. They have their hands in our land. There's so many facets that China's a part of. And I'm just a welder. I'm just a welder that sells gloves, right? But but I know there's a lot of people thinking the same way I'm thinking
Right.
on this. This has nothing to do with China and everything to do with the you can't lobby TikTok.
Yeah, the control
Yeah.
and well, because like I haven't been on it that long,
Mhm.
and I've seen the
I've seen riots in France. I've seen riots in Germany. I've seen people revolting, coming up against their governments. That's something I don't see on Facebook. That's
right.
something I don't see. And talking about data, Meta is the worst one about that. We all
And I
got a
mean
check
that's
from them,
right. And I mean,
so
well, and see, I think it's the ignorance of us as consumers too. Like people that they weren't even concerned with their data being sold. They're just still like posting on Facebook and
yeah.
chilling. Like whatever, it's Facebook.
So you what?
It's like Walmart, it's like what doesn't matter what Walmart does, people are still gonna shop there.
Mhm.
I mean, you Walmart can do no wrong and Facebook can do no wrong, even though it's been proved
Oh, they're
and
listening to you all the time,
yeah,
especially Facebook ads. Those are
yeah.
the worst.
It's
We
I
talking
mean,
about bottled water, and I'll see 10 ads for it on my Facebook.
oh, for
You know
sure.
what I mean?
Yeah. With TikTok, I feel like TikTok is for me, it is a platform that I found to be the most useful
Mhm.
when you want like I started my show out of thin air and I had a following within the first few clips.
Yep.
It wasn't even and for me, it was the hashtags, the community, and the way the platform is designed. It's designed for us to be successful, to
Mhm.
communicate.
It wants you to be.
It wants you to be, and feel that encouragement because other apps, it's like it's just not quite there. It's not
Mhm.
the same, and I
It's
mean,
harder. It's
it's
harder to hit that
it is harder, and
on
I
a
mean, because
different
like TikTok, I guess the way it started, or and some people still do this, the lip syncing thing. I don't know how
Mhm.
they do that or what the deal is with it, but I get it. Like it was a fun app.
Mhm.
But we have created successful businesses and relationships. The education, like everything that I follow, which is not a lot, on TikTok, it's like I'm seeing things, and I mean, there's some entertainment that I follow, and I mean, it's whatever, but most of what I follow is educational, it's oil field related, I mean, it's people like you that are really giving the oil field a good name, a good solid representation of what it's like to work hard and build something with your own two hands. And lo and behold, here's a platform where you can not only share it, you can sell it.
Mhm,
And it's so functional. It's very user friendly
mhm.
and it's straightforward. And so to see all of this in the headlines about a possible ban, one, I think it's a tactic to keep people in fear because fear is
It could definitely be one of those, "We're gonna say this about TikTok and get people stirred up over here while we're
while
doing
we're doing
this
this over
over
here.
here."
Exactly. Fear-based thinking is a very cheap tactic.
Mhm.
There are people, it doesn't take much, and we've seen it all through COVID with the toilet paper and the bottled water and the
Yeah,
panic in the streets,
that
and
was great.
everybody's wearing the mask in their car. It does not take much to
Mhm.
make a large majority of the population panic.
Yeah.
And then that creates unnecessary chaos. You know, people are backed up getting gas, traffic jams, and just wouldn't know what to do if the power went out or if
Mhm,
they couldn't charge their cell phone, and it's like you're just not thinking for yourself. So you're believing what's fed to you.
mhm.
And if a lot of the and this is, well, it's from the government or it's from, Congress, it's from whoever, you're trained to believe what they're telling you.
Right.
But we've seen that where there's a lot of gray in that communication. I mean, you think we've got disconnect from the office to the field in the oil and gas industry. Imagine the disconnect we have from Congress and the Senate and our government to the people.
Oh, yeah. I imagine there's a disconnect just in age. What's, like, the average age? Like, 70% of Congress is over 60 years old?
They're all pretty well senior.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
They're
And
they're they're long in their senior years. And I think that it's the control, like, the success of TikTok is not sitting well with a lot of people
Mhm.
because it shouldn't be that easy. It's like
Right.
you should have to go out and, work 80 hours a week every day and build yourself up and all of these things, but what we have been presented with when we went through COVID and everything went online and everybody was having to do Zoom calls and distance education and stay at home. Well, we got through all that and realized that there were a lot of useful benefits
Mhm.
to being online, for social media and to shop online. And so what we did was we shifted as a culture to say, okay, we can shop online, we can communicate this way.
People
And
were doing their jobs from the
and
house.
people are doing a lot of their jobs from the house. And I mean, and there's two sides to that. It's like, okay, a lot of the work can be done at home. That's awesome. But then we should also need to be out and
Mhm.
dealing with people, having
Definitely.
physical human experiences together. But it's like, how efficient can we be? We can save so much gas by like having 100 people not driving on the road at
Mhm.
one time just because they can work from home.
Mhm.
That's just like one small factor that we can look at and say, how efficient can we be with what we have to work with?
Yeah.
But the more we make it work, the more it's like, oh no, now we're gonna just completely disband this app that has been so powerful for people.
It's changed so many Americans' lives, and I
Yeah.
think it's made a lot of Americans a lot of money, and, I just don't that doesn't sit well with me. It is what it is because TikTok straight doubled my business instantly, boom, and, I want everyone to feel what I feel. I want everyone to feel the sense of freedom that you can, achieve, and it's a beautiful thing, and I mean, I want it for everybody, and I know TikTok is one of those at first it was a joke to everybody, it was a joke to me even. I was like, "How am I gonna learn make a dance and weld or whatever?" And I
Right.
was just for a long time, I didn't get it because I didn't understand it,
Right.
and then, I was like, "You know what?" Because my wife was on it all the time, and I was like, I was telling you the other day that, like, I started off making cooking videos on my Snapchat,
Oh yes.
and people loved it.
Yeah.
People loved, me making dinner. And I was like, so maybe I do have an act for it. So I finally downloaded it. I was like watching it and then it all happened. It all came together.
Yeah.
And like I want that for, everybody. I know everyone's not gonna achieve it, but I
Right.
want that possibility to be on the table
Yeah.
if that's something they do, aspire for.
Yeah, I agree, and I hope that it all works out. I really I do hope that it's something that it's being talked about and it's not going to disrupt what we've built because it's really
Mhm,
powerful and positive. And I really appreciate you coming on today and talking about it and talking about Slickman and
mhm.
hearing your story.
You bet. You bet. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Thanks, Nate.